Firstly, the fossils show what kind of organisms were present, and where they occur or what rock they occur in will tell us how old they are, and also the transition from which they began and where, or the pathway that they took. So if we look at a set of rocks, let's say this is the surface, and then this is going down. So if we say that is one fossil that is there, and there is another fossil that is on the surface there, we can say that this is the older fossil, and this is the younger fossil. All right, how is that? We learned that formation of rocks comes from sedimentation. So sediments are going to build up over time, and the older, or the sediments that were there before are going to be buried further and further down, and so they become the, whatever is in there becomes the older one. And so rocks that are formed further down are older rocks, the ones that are at the surface or near to the surface are younger ones. And so likewise, any fossil that is in there is going to be older further down and younger further up. So the position of the fossils are going to tell us how old these fossils are. And so if we find two similar fossils, one over here, okay, where one is, and then another one up there, and they are similar, but they have changed certain features, then we can say there has been a progression of change from this to there, and then so we can say, okay, this is the most recent fossil, this is the older one, and so we can then, if there's any change, we can say how much change and what kind of change has taken place over that time. So that is one thing the fossils can tell us. All right, but there are some gaps in the fossils that are found, and these are the reasons why there are some gaps in the fossils. I'd just like to introduce to you one term that you can look for. Missing link. All right, what is a missing link? And living fossil. A fossil we know are remains or impressions of organisms that lived long ago are not existing anymore. But what could be a living fossil? So missing link, living fossil, and Archaeopteryx. Archaeopteryx, yes. That's an organism. And so find out why it is important. Okay? So those three things, try to find out: missing link, living fossil, and Archaeopteryx. Why is Archaeopteryx an important organism? All right, so we can find the age of fossils by the layer in which they occur. We can also find from the fossil evidence the changes that have taken place over time in terms of the evolution of an organism. And so let's have a look at this as an example. The forelimb of a horse. So it has been found through fossil evidence that that was the early toe arrangement of the early host. Then through fossil evidence again, came to this one here, again to 3, to 4, and the current one is the 5th arrangement of the host hoof or toes. So there's only one toe now. Right? So the change has taken place in that direction. How did they find that out? That was from fossils that they found in the rocks of the crust, the Earth's crust. And how did they find out that this one occurred first and that one came later? They would have found it out from this one being in the older rocks, and this would have been in the younger rocks, both that and that, and then this would be the present. So that's how they would find out that there was structural change in the toe of the, or the foot of the host over time. And if that was so, and these were the older structures, this is the present structure, then evolution has taken place. All right, good. How can you find the age of the rocks and also the fossils? I've already said that the structure of the order in which the layers of the earth, the rocks come, will tell us how old the rocks are. And also from carbon dating. Carbon dating, you've already had a look at maybe radioactivity in physics. Is that right, Mr. Fred?
Yes.
All right. So carbon 14 is one carbon, carbon 12 is the other one. So carbon 14 is the one that is used for carbon dating. So you've already looked at the half-life of radioactive materials. So so half-life of of a radioactive material can tell us how long it will take for half of that organism, half of that structure, sorry, to decompose, and so carbon 14 is used. All right, so we go to the next one. Okay, now we come to biogeography. So that's the second evidence we are looking at. First evidence was fossil evidence, and now is the biogeography as evidence of evolution. So first question is going to ask is, what is biogeography? Biogeography is the study of the geographical distribution of living and fossil plants and animals as a result of ecological and evolutionary processes. So basically, biogeography is talking about the distribution of organisms right throughout the planet. So questions we are going to ask: where organisms occur and therefore their distribution depends on environmental factors. That we already looked at from our study on biotic and abiotic factors in ecology. And so we learned that abiotic and biotic factors affect the distribution of organisms. All right. So now biogeography comes in to try to explain evolution. So the questions we're going to ask and so find out why or how biogeography is used as evidence of evolution. First question is, if evolution did occur, how is it that similar organisms are found on different geographical locations, for example, continents separated by oceans? Because if evolution has occurred, similar organisms are supposed to be closer to each other in the place where they are located. Because then, if we saw a neighboring organism that is similar to the one that we are seeing, then we'd say, okay, this is the result of evolution, and they're living in the same place. But here we see that different continents have similar organisms that are existing in another continent. Example, the flightless birds, the emus and ostriches, they found in Australia, Africa, and the American continent. These are geographically far places, but these animals with similar features are living there. And that cannot be possible through the story of evolution. Next question is, how do these similar organisms show that evolution has taken place? All right. Okay, this can be explained this way. Continental drift. Evolution did take place, but the organisms that evolved were separated by continental drift, all right, or the movement of the continental plates, as according to plate tectonics theory, all right. So we know that the continents, now we know the continents are just plates of crust that are sitting on the molten lava, okay, and then so they can move about. So over time, their movement has allowed for those similar organisms to be separated, and therefore, example of the ostriches and the emus that we talked about previous slide, were able to be moved from where they were previously to their current locations. Okay, so if continental drift can be used to explain their occurrence in those particular locations, okay, then we can be sure that evolution has taken place, but because of continental drift, they moved to those places. Geographic isolation. In natural selection theory, geographic isolation is one contributing factor to speciation, or the formation of species. So members of one particular population can be separated through geographic isolation, and then as a result of environmental pressures that are present over in those places, they can then form different adaptations, or the adaptation suitable for that particular environment, and therefore eventually form new species. We're going to have a look at that one later. But these are the two reasons that we can use biogeography to give evidence for evolution. All right, so what have we done so far? Okay, so first thing we've done is we've looked at the theories of evolution. All right, and we have settled for Darwin's theory of evolution, and that is through natural selection. Then we were beginning to look at, or we have begun to look at the evidence of evolution. And the first evidence was fossils. And the second evidence now is not biochemical, biogeography. Okay, and then C, D, etc. Refer to your worksheet that, or the course outline I gave you. You can read ahead, and hopefully there is no more SOE and we return to school, we can go through this. Otherwise, if there's continuation of SOE, then we'll do more of these videos. All right, thank you very much. I hope our first Zoom session has worked out well, and that you have